Okay, tell me when.
Okay.
We are now live on all our streams. Yay. Hola, hola.
We have just a few more days in Zihuatanejo. Oh, that's fun. That's a physical boundary. Cool. Today we wanted to invoke soul check-in a little bit further on this boundaries exploration we've been embarking upon.
So I thought it would be fun to have you play along with us today as we explore where our edge is with each one of these categories of boundaries. So the question is, where do you currently struggle the most when it comes to boundaries? Okay, so I'll say that again. Where do you currently struggle the most when it comes to boundaries? And we're actually going to ask each other and explore live with you. We didn't script it out or anything. This is an actual exploration so that you can do this on your own, maybe with your partner or a friend, or come to Amos on Sunday and explore with us and share what you found. So let's get started.
So we were talking about the four of the quadrants that we were mentioning with boundaries: body, heart, mind, soul, or if you prefer, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And of course, these aren't hard lines, there's overlap. For example, for me, I've been a physical and mental, for me, has been exercise. I've been working really hard to run every day here in Mexico, and I don't succeed every day, but it's a physical thing, getting out and having that physical activity. It's a boundary, and it seeps into mental when I start generating some excuses in my head and I'm kind of tired and I don't really feel up to it. So that's one example alive for me for a physical boundary seeping into mental.
So that's also, it's also a good point to bring up because we didn't talk about boundaries with yourself. That's a little bit more boundaries with yourself, whereas physical boundaries, which we did model, was how close or how far do you want to be from the person standing in front of you is one of the biggest forms. Consent is around more than just physical boundaries, but that's the first thing that comes up. So, okay. So you were saying physical and mental, but in terms of what's the most difficult, so let's start with physical. So as a sexual abuse survivor, physical is boundaries. For the practice of that for myself is really interesting because through my healing journey, I've become more and more aware of my boundaries, right? There was a sense of maybe not having them. And then now I have gone the other route of saying no a lot more often and owning my no. So I wouldn't say it's the most difficult of all, but I will say for me, because of that trauma, those kinds of traumas, it is a little tricky at times to know if it's coming from the place of trauma and or coming from actual desire or what is actually true in the moment. So it might be, I might just go straight into no because the trauma kicks up a little bit of the fear or whatever it might be. And then I take a breath, slow it down and realize, actually, I do want to be touched. So that's my exploration with physical. And then you said mental, that runs into mental for you?
It can. I just was making the point that there's an overlap. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I would say my biggest edge right now with boundaries, most of you know I've been doing a ton of inner child work lately on myself and sharing it with clients. But for myself, it's being a good parent to my inner child without indulging. Yesterday had a really wonderful podcast conversation with Kurt Robinson. It was delightful. Details on that for you soon. And we were talking about parents who don't set or model good boundaries for their children, or in the worst cases, really abusive boundaries, sexually, emotionally violating. Yeah. So that's one end. And then, looking at my history and my trauma of neglect and abandonment and being kind of boundaryless. So here I am as an adult in my healing journey, getting into, and this goes even back to that exercise question. Adult knows intellectually, this is a mental thing, that it's good to go exercise, but inner child might be tantruming. No, I ran yesterday. I don't want to, kind of like, I want more ice cream. So that's a interesting boundary for me. I'm going to say indulging versus not indulging, right? And reparenting, like myself, and then helping others that way. So that's a really interesting inquiry for me.
Beautiful. Yeah. So that leads me to, I think, where I struggle the most with boundary work right now. And this is fluid, right? We talked about fluidity yesterday. I think emotional boundaries, to be honest, I even had to look it up again. Like, wait, how is that different from the others? Back to how they overlap in our experience. We're in agreement about that. So emotional boundaries, whether it's, the difference between caring or caretaking, right? There's a phrase my therapist uses to remind me, which is this idea and oftentimes we have to be the parents of our parents growing up.